Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar event. It's the top of the hour, and we have a lot to share with you today, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So welcome to Hands-on Banking, Strategies and Tools to Move Individuals Towards Saving. I'm going to be your moderator today. My name is Elizabeth Jennings, and I'm the Deputy Director at National Disability Institute. I want to take a moment to say a special thank you to our sponsor, Wells Fargo, who provides hands-on banking. Katie Achenbach is our host for today's webinar, and she's going to take a few minutes to provide you with some housekeeping.
Hi everyone, welcome to the webinar. If you are listening to the webinar, the audio for today's webinar is being broadcast through your computer, so please make sure your speakers are turned on or your headphones are plugged in. You can control the audio broadcast via the audio broadcast panel, and if you accidentally close that panel, you can reopen it by going to the Communicate menu at the top of the screen and choosing Join Audio Broadcast. If you do not have sound capabilities on your computer, or if you prefer to listen by phone, dial the toll-free number 1-855-244-8681 and enter the meeting code 408-083-054. And note, you do not need to enter an attendee ID number to join the audio. Real-time captioning is provided during this webinar. The captions can be found in the Media Viewer panel, which appears in the lower right corner of your screen. If you do not see the captions, you may need to open the Media Viewer panel by selecting the Media Viewer button in the upper right corner of the webinar platform. If you want to make the Media Viewer panel larger, you can minimize other panels like Chat, Q&A, and/or the Participants panel. For submitting questions for today's webinar, please use the chat box and/or the Q&A panel to send any questions you have to either Lori Schaller, who is listed as one of the presenters, or to the NDI admin, which is myself, and we will direct the questions accordingly during the question and answer portion of the webinar. If you are listening by phone and not logged into the webinar, you may also ask questions by emailing your questions to Lori Schaller at lschaller@ndi-inc.org. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and the materials will be placed on the National Disability Institute website at www.realeconomicimpact.org. If you do experience any technical difficulties during the webinar, please use the chat box to send a message to the host NDI admin, or you may also email myself, Katie Achenbach, at KAUCHENBACH@ndi-inc.org. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Elizabeth and Michael Morris to get the webinar started.
Thank you so much, Katie. For those of you who are new to our webinars, we at National Disability Institute have a mission to drive social impact to build a better economic future for people with disabilities and their families. And this is just one of a three-part series. So if you didn't have a chance to catch the other parts, we encourage you to visit the archive so you can learn more about the tools that have been put together with National Disability Institute and Wells Fargo's Hands-on Banking. We have a few objectives for today's webinar. We want to provide you with information that will help you to better understand ABLE accounts, identify steps to maximize savings, and importantly, provide an overview of key hands-on banking activities and materials that are designed to enhance knowledge around saving and investing. We're very pleased to offer you today as your key presenter, as one of your two key presenters, Michael Morris. He's the Executive Director and the founder of National Disability Institute. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Pleasure to be here with all of you across the country. The first part of this webinar is to provide you some of the basic facts about ABLE. ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience Act. The Stephen Beck Achieving a Better Life Experience Act, Public Law 113-295, amends the Federal Tax Code to add Section 529A in order to do a number of things. It creates, for the first time, a new protected savings option for eligible people with disabilities. It allows for savings in a tax-exempt account for qualified disability expenses. Funds in an ABLE account are not taken into consideration when determining the account owner's eligibility for a number of federal public benefits which are means or resource tested, such as Medicaid, SSI, and SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. There are nuances related to each of these, and we'll talk a little bit more about that during the course of this webinar. So who is eligible for an ABLE account? A person who has a disability onset prior to age 26 is eligible to open an ABLE savings account. You're only allowed to have one ABLE account. You cannot open multiple accounts. An account can be opened by or for an individual who meets the eligibility criteria at any age, as long as their age of onset was 26 or younger. For an example, an infant may have an account opened, or a young child may have an account opened in their name by a parent. And a person who is 18 or older could open their own ABLE savings account in their name. In terms of proof of eligibility, if an individual receives benefits under SSI, Supplemental Security Income, and/or SSDI, they are automatically eligible to establish an ABLE account as long as they meet that age of onset of disability prior to age 26. A person with a disability prior to age 26 who does not receive SSI and/or SSDI benefits can still be eligible by securing a letter of certification from a licensed physician that their condition of disability meets the Social Security's definition under SSI and/or SSDI regarding significant functional limitations, and then that individual as well would be eligible to open an account. What's critical about that definition, though, it drops the requirement of having an inability to work. So it's looking at the medical criteria and functional limitations that are required in the definition of SSI or SSDI, but it does not require an inability to work. Who is the account owner? Well, the designated beneficiary is the account owner, although another person, such as a parent, a guardian, or person with power of attorney, may be allowed signature authority over the account. Annual savings limit. There are limits to how much money can be put into an individual's ABLE account on an annual basis. Contributions can be deposited directly into an ABLE account by the individual with a disability or by members of that individual's family, friends, or virtually anyone else within a circle of support. Contributions from all sources are allowed up to $14,000 each calendar year. In 2018, that $14,000 limit will be increased to $15,000. Funds in an ABLE account, and this is quite critical, are not taken into account in consideration when determining the account owner's eligibility for such other federal benefits as Medicaid, SSI, and food assistance under SNAP. Now, only the first $100,000 is disregarded with respect to an individual's eligibility for continued SSI cash benefits. After that first $100,000, the SSI monthly cash benefits will be suspended, not terminated, as long as that beneficiary's account balance exceeds $100,000. Funds above the $100,000 will be treated as a resource and could affect a person's eligibility for SSI. Impact on federal benefits in terms of Medicaid. ABLE assets are disregarded in determining Medicaid eligibility. Medicaid benefits are not suspended even if the ABLE account balance exceeds $100,000. That is only applicable to the SSI cash benefit. We should point out that there is a provision in the law which is called a Medicaid payback. Any assets remaining in the ABLE account when a beneficiary dies, subject to outstanding qualified disability expenses, can be used to reimburse the state for Medicaid payments made on behalf of the beneficiary after the creation of the ABLE account. The state would have to file a claim for those funds. For purposes of this section, the state is considered a creditor of the ABLE account, not a beneficiary. It should be pointed out that not everyone is a recipient of Medicaid funds, and in addition, it should be pointed out that some states are deciding that they are not going to seek reimbursement under the Medicaid payback provision. An example of such a state is the state of Pennsylvania. Well, what are ABLE qualified disability expenses used for? Well, there is quite a long list, very comprehensive list of how funds in an ABLE account can be used to cover the extra costs of living with a disability. That list includes costs related to education, housing, transportation, different types of employment training and supports, assistive technology, personal support services, could be extra costs related to health care expenses, benefits planning, financial management, administrative services, and then a overall kind of catch-all expenses which help improve health, independence, and or quality of life, including basic living expenses. ABLE savings do not supplant funding from federal or state programs. So let's talk a little bit more about why would someone open an ABLE account? The extraordinary costs associated with having a disability is one of the major reasons that there was strong bipartisan support in Congress. It took over 8 years, but families and individuals with disabilities talking with their members of Congress convinced them of the need for this change to the tax code. Common expenses include provisions of accessible housing, personal assistance services. There's technology that may not be covered by a public benefit or by private insurance. And there are other health care expenses that may not be covered by insurance. Medicaid or Medicare that are necessary for the person with a disability may not cover every kind of extra cost a person needs. When is the right time to think about opening an ABLE account? Well, if you were ABLE eligible and you are a current recipient of SSI, you have a lot to think about here. For the first time, you're not going to be really in any way set back by the $2,000 cash resource asset limit for an individual on SSI. What you're going to have is an opportunity to think for the first time about becoming a saver, about putting money aside in an ABLE account. Could be for a rainy day or an emergency, or it could be money set aside for much longer goals, maybe someday to own a place of your own to live. Or it may relate to transportation, or it could be a more expensive cost of technology. One of the wonderful things about qualified disability expenses, it's not based on a medical necessity test. In other words, it's not just for things that are needed because of a medical reason. It also, in the proposed rules that were written by Treasury, recognizes that things like an iPad or a computer, which may not meet medical necessity tests under other federal programs, would very much be something that could be considered and covered under an ABLE account. So when is it the right time to think about opening an ABLE account? I think as soon as possible. We know now that over 28 states have opened ABLE programs all across the country. You do not need to be a resident of one of those states. The majority of states that have opened ABLE programs allow you the opportunity to opt into opening an ABLE account in a state of your choice. There are a few states that limit the opportunity to open an ABLE account to only in-state residents, but there are many, many other choices. When is the right time is really about maybe when you're getting an income tax refund. Maybe it's because you're getting close to the limits on countable resources under a Social Security benefit. There are lots of reasons to think about and begin to set financial goals that would really turn you into thinking seriously about being a saver. Opening an ABLE account really means for many people with disabilities that you want to gain new knowledge and new understanding and new skills in money management. Knowing that a person with a disability is eligible to open an account creates a point in time to discuss ways to increase income, develop money management, and investment skills that would support the opening and maintenance of an ABLE account. Well, where can you learn more about ABLE accounts? There is a website that was initiated by National Disability Institute in the first year after the act was signed into law. And the ABLE NRC, ABLENationalResourceCenter.org, has an interactive map where you can learn about all the states, what their status is in terms of having an ABLE program. It also offers an interactive tool where you can select 3 state ABLE plans and then have a list of questions that are there on the site to help you compare what are costs of opening an account, different fee structures, availability of different types of investment options. It shows each state's account savings limit, and it will also tell you whether, in fact, you need to be a resident of that state. It will also link you to the disclosure statement, which is very important to read because it gives you all the details about that particular state ABLE program. So in summing up, let's just think of things this way. ABLE is really a game changer. For so many people, whether it's a parent with a young child with a disability, or it's a working age adult with a disability, you now have an opportunity to hold on to different types of government public benefits and at the same time begin to dream and think about things that will really change your quality of life. It's an important opportunity to begin to understand more about how do I manage money resources? How can I be a saver and an investor? And it really provides an opportunity to make informed financial decisions. And it's really an opportunity that what we're seeing across the country are thousands of people are beginning to open ABLE accounts. We know that from our research, there are probably in excess of 5 million individuals who are ABLE eligible. There is an opportunity to really increase the number from our first year and a half of ABLE experience, and I hope with just some of these basics and visiting the ABLE National Resource Center and some of the other resources that are listed there, you really have, will give it more serious consideration. But I now want to turn back to Elizabeth and really offer us a tie-in on how hands-on banking can provide important knowledge development that could help potential or current ABLE account owners and beneficiaries.
Thank you, Michael, so much. I think that was so beautifully said that we should move right on to our next presenter, Mia Russell. Mia is with the Wells Fargo Hands-on Banking team. She provides content strategy and integration. Mia, we're so thrilled to have you with us today and very appreciative for you providing your time to help us and the folks on the line to better understand how to support people in creating savings behaviors and understanding pathways to savings so they can effectively use an ABLE account.
Thank you, and I thank both of you and NDI just for a wonderful partnership. I think as Michael set the stage, what I want to share today from Hands-on Banking and the work that Wells Fargo has been doing is truly an appropriate tie-in. So Hands-on Banking first, I know this is the third of the final of 3 webinars. Hands-on Banking is the free financial education program that's provided as a public service by Wells Fargo. And we really focus on advancing financial capability and really creating opportunities and providing resources and tools that educators can use to teach money skills that we all need, right? This is truly a life skill. So Michael set the stage talking about the importance of ABLE accounts and savings and the types of expenses that people have. And I kind of want to talk, a little bit more broadly about the challenges of savings. And here I'm really looking at all people, right? So all adults, there's a challenge related to savings, right? Saving and preparing for financial shocks has been a challenge. A lot of recent research shows that people spend more than what they make. Federal Reserve found that 46% of people that they surveyed could not cover a $400 emergency. More than half of us don't have rainy day funds, and not many people have money saved. So whether we're looking at being able to meet medical expenses or retirement or, this really says to me, short-term and long-term expenses, there is a challenge for us. And so when we think of where we are with savings, this is the current reality, and then we think about the need for understanding financial capability or becoming more versed or well-versed in financial education topics. We know that it's a truly complex financial marketplace, and we need money and we need to make informed financial decisions to ensure we're prepared for many of life's significant goals. Without these skills, there are severe consequences. And so hands-on banking is here to provide a resources and tools that you can use. One of the things about Handson Banking that's important to remind you is that it's non-commercial. There are no product ties. It's been widely used in schools and by nonprofits for nearly 15 years. It is also available in both English and Spanish. So this content is truly flexible, and you have the ability to tailor it to provide whether traditional or online, non-traditional types of delivery channels. So I want to jump right in and kind of walk you through Handson Banking and some of our savings content and lessons specifically. So in our, whether through our instructor guide or on the website, handsonbanking.org, you'll find information about how savings is critical to your financial future. And in thinking about it, we position savings as an investment in yourself and your future, or to think about saving as a gift to your future self. And we also introduce banking, and that it's a great place to save is in a bank account where there's interest grows, the compounding. We introduce the idea of compounding, and how these two work together to help your money grow faster. Some tips for saving money is really starting with this, starting with the end in mind. So if you pay yourself first automatically, whether that's a direct deposit, a direct transfer, whatever it is, automatic transfers or creating an automaticity with your savings is a behavioral economics or behavioral finance approach that is proven. It's also important to pay bills on time. And if we think about it in terms of late fees and finance charges or even reconnection fees, often eat up some of those savings. Avoid non-bank borrowing is something else that we focus on. We know that using check, or at least frequent use of check cashing and payday advance stores can add up to several $100s that someone could have had in their savings account. And also setting aside extra money. So whether that is bonuses or any type of windfall. If there's a gift, your Aunt Sally sends you some money on a birthday, or any type of extra money that you receive, try to set a portion aside to make it last. In thinking about savings, we really look at the short term and the long term, and so the ABLE accounts are an option or a vehicle that can help you accomplish both of these to meet some of your short-term needs as well as your long-term. And here, this visual really just goes to show what are the difference between saving and investing and considerations that people should be mindful of. In terms of investing, we focus on some critical rules of thumb. So first, to save for retirement or any long-term savings, kind of what is the purpose of these long-term savings? To have emergency savings in case you need anything today, for example, just drawing from that Federal Reserve research. In case of an emergency, not many people were able to put their hands on $400. And then especially as we talk about investment options, it's important to understand and research products, services, and options so that money is invested in ways that the individual understands. This is also an opportunity to really talk about working with a professional or understanding the questions that you should ask. Handson Banking does have several resources on working with a financial advisor and questions that you may want to ask a financial advisor. In terms of investing, we have a Save, Invest, and Build Wealth module that walks through these 5 steps here of covering your expenses, or again, making sure you can meet all your needs, including an emergency fund, setting goals, weighing risk, determining risks, and then deciding how much to save. And these are really the 5 steps that an individual should go through before they start to invest. So you can have your participants go through this. You can also review this module. This is in the flash version, but we also have this on our mobile version or our mobile responsive version, and so the instructor or the coach can walk participants through it. So in terms of hands-on banking, I showed you some of our content here, but you know, it's truly a comprehensive suite of financial education articles, courses, and tools that can be used for individual instruction as well as in groups. It can be used for self-paced instruction, where one can just go through the curriculum online alone. And I'd like to show you just some of the resources that we have available on the website. So at handsonbanking.org, you can find Educator Resources. We have things here, all of our, in the young adults curriculum, for example, there are instructor guides, there are worksheets, there are articles, there are really everything that you need in order to be able to teach any of the lessons. And certainly these complement, or the NDI supplement guides complement these. On handsonbanking.org, you'll find article sections at the top. One of the really neat sections here I find is the life events. So this is covering really, you know, from soup to nuts, whether a person is contemplating marriage and needing to understand some of the things that they should consider, through understanding the financial implications of death, and really everything in between, wanting to buy a car or planning for vacation. There are all types of articles there. In the center, you'll see the courses by age group or segment, followed by the resources for educators and both traditional K through 12 as well as community education, or educators that may find themselves working in workplaces or in nonprofits. I mentioned that, well, Hands-On Banking is available in English and Spanish. This is just an example of what our Spanish site looks like. And these are the downloadable instructor guides. These can be found on Hands-On Banking as well. In terms of the modules, we have the modules that are available with the coaches that can walk a participant through. And here, the coach actually would talk about, you know, getting started or earning money, all of these core content here, how to save and invest and build wealth, as I showed you on the other slide. We have both mobile responsive, which you'll see here on the right side, and the left side, the flash version. So whether we're looking at or how we're looking at spending plans, all of the information is here. So again, if they want to, if it's more appropriate for someone to listen and follow along, the flash version works well. We also have content focused on setting goals and just thinking about using or establishing savings goals and allocating certain dollars that may need to go to an ABLE account. This could be useful when individuals are thinking about what am I working towards, even just identifying some allocations or a maximum amount that they may want to save. While the focus of this is really on saving, an important topic to consider is also spending, right? So we talk about savings. One way to get to saving is to spend less. Another way is to have more income. Oftentimes, it's easier to say, maybe we can consider some of the areas in which we spend money. One of the things that we talk about in our curriculum is also use of ATMs and fees that are associated with overdrafts, for example. Sometimes we can even think about small fees, like using ATMs that are not associated or in the network of your financial institution. So, and also if people need to understand how to work the ATM, we also have this ATM skill simulation where I know we don't have time now, but you'll get a copy of this, and you can click on the link below. And there's truly a simulation. You'll grab the card, and you'll put it right in the slot. And then you get to select a 4-digit PIN number. I think it's well regarded, I think, and it's a very useful simulation because, as many of us know, we can't really practice at the machine. If you do the wrong thing, your card will not come back out. So this is also a good tool to use. Other things we have are worksheets. So here is an example of the spending plan. So in addition to going through the module online, you can also provide tools and resources to help individuals actually create their own budget. At the end, we have certificates, course assessments. There's assessments at the end of the entire course, and once an individual completes that assessment, successfully completes it, we should say, they'll have a certificate that will be awarded. And depending on how your programs are set up, that may be something that you're interested in seeing or wanting to, provide some type of, maybe there's some incentive that participants get. So now I'll turn it back over to Elizabeth, and I know we'll need to talk about some of the tools that are available to enhance financial education delivery.
Thank you so much. We have a lot of folks on the line today, and a lot of you have already submitted questions. I just want to encourage you, if you have a question and you haven't had a chance to put it into the Q&A box, to please take a moment and send us your question, and we're going to start answering them in just a few minutes. I took a quick look at who's participating today, and I was really excited to see some folks that have been partners with National Disability Institute for a long time. Some of you who I don't recognize who may be just starting to look at financial capability for people with disabilities. Whether you're new to this area or you've been working in this field for a while, we know that tools to enhance delivery of financial education to persons with disabilities is something that's always needed, because while we have ABLE accounts and we have great financial education, such as what's been created and shared through Wells Fargo Handson Banking, marrying all of these services within disability services or workforce services or other human services can sometimes be challenging. So we created some new tools to help you with that process. One of the sets of tools that we created are Instructor Guides. So these Instructor Guides support Handson Banking materials by providing disability-specific information so that you can better make the connection between financial education, disability employment, and work supports. So they complement the Handson Banking materials, and they provide an opportunity for you to do things like explain the need for protected savings options while encouraging the provision of financial education to improve the financial capability of the individuals that you serve. So these are not standalone guides. They're intended to be used while you're using Handson Banking materials, but they can help you to better align the world of disability with these financial education materials. We also created quick reference guides. We identified 15 common barriers and offer you information and resources to support people with disabilities as these issues arrive. So they help you to move forward in resolving the barriers so that you can support people in reaching their financial capability and their financial stability, sometimes right now in the moment and sometimes into the future. We have both of the creators of these quick reference guides on the line with us today, Michael Rausch and Lori Schaller, and I just wanted to offer them a chance to share any additional information they think is critical for you to best understand when you might use these quick reference guides, how you might use them, and what you can expect. So Lori or Michael, do you want to share some information?
Sure. This is Lori. Thank you, Elizabeth. So, you know, we never know what barriers a particular person might introduce to the conversation of managing money, having enough money to meet their goals, and perhaps even employment. So these quick reference guides correspond to surveys that we had conducted with American Job Centers and non-for-profit community agencies that provide services to individuals who have disabilities. And as well, too, we invited people who have disabilities and their family members to share with us common barriers that people experience. So the materials correspond to those 15 barriers. And so to make it easy for myself, I'm going to print out the materials and let people select what they think corresponds to their situation. Some people are very comfortable speaking about you know, what they are experiencing in terms of a barrier. So I want to allow the opportunity to have dialogue with individuals as well. And these materials have quick tips to inform the instructor of the background to why an individual who has a disability may be experiencing a particular barrier, and it provides resources and options that the person may want to consider to resolve those barriers. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Great. Thank you so much, Lori. I know that we have our colleague Michael Rausch on the line, but he's also on the road, so I just want to give space for him to share something more if he'd like to. Okay, we'll allow him to jump in if he has a quiet enough space to do so. So one of the other ways that you might choose to use this as somebody who's providing employment services or financial coaching or another type of human services is that you can download all of the guides, and we'd offer you the link now on the screen in front of you. You can download the disability supplement and the reference guides, and you could keep them as a desktop reference resource for you. So this way, if somebody comes in and mentions a barrier, if you're not quite sure in the moment how to address it, the desktop guide will be right there. You can quickly open it and take a look and share it with the individual. You can also print it out for the individual if you think that that will work best for them, as Lori plans to do. So we have those materials available for you. They're on the NDI website. You can download and review the disability supplement and reference guides, and you can find them at www.realeconomicimpact.org/financial-disability-reference-guides. We also want to make sure that you're aware that last year we archived presentations that we did to introduce hands-on banking and coaching and motivational service provision, and they're all available in our archives. So this is a way that you can kind of brush up on some of the strategies we offered last year. They're always available to you and to anybody else in your organization or in your family or in your circle of support. You can reach those by going to the Real Economic Impact website and visiting the archives. We did receive quite a few questions, so we want to take a moment and answer some of the questions. I'm going to offer questions first on ABLE that have come in, since that's kind of the order they came in, but going to ask you, Mia, to be on the bench, so to say, because we also have some questions for you as well. So one of the Q&As we had on ABLE accounts is folks want to know, is there a website? Well, one of the questions first, let me ask you, is folks wanted to, a few people asked, how do I go about getting the letter from a doctor to ensure that the person meets the disability eligibility requirement? And we also have in the room, I'll quickly introduce Chris Rodriguez, who's our Director of the ABLE National Resource Center.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I appreciate all these great questions. We're very excited about the progress that ABLE has made, not only since it's been passed, coming up on the 3rd anniversary, but perhaps more so in the last 18 months, in which we have seen nearly 30 different ABLE programs launched across the country, giving eligible individuals with disabilities the opportunity, like Michael said, to save, in many circumstances for the first time without having to jeopardize their very important and vital supports and services provided through various means-tested benefit programs, not the least of which, again, as Michael says, Medicaid and supplemental security income. So in terms, Michael did review the eligibility criteria because not all individuals with disabilities are currently eligible to open up an ABLE account. And as Michael said, the primary qualifiers are, one, that the disability had to have occurred or had an onset prior to age 26, but that there are also this second prong that needed to be met with regard to being eligible. The first being that could satisfy that if the individual is currently a beneficiary of SSI or SSDI. Now, if that is not the case, let's take, for example, an individual who meets the age requirement, so did have an onset of disability prior to age 26, but let's say that the individual is employed, and as a result of their employment, they are not eligible for SSI or SSDI because they're making too much money. Now, Congress wanted to make sure that this individual as well is still able to open an ABLE account and save for their future. So they allowed for what's called the disability certification, and that's kind of what the question is based around. Now, if you find a program that you're interested in, again, there's a number of different programs that you have to choose from. You would go to their website, and their website usually has more information on the specific language that you would need to take with you to a certified physician, and that physician would have to certify that the individual that's interested in opening the ABLE account meets the language related to the severity of the disability. So you would want to go to the ABLE program that you're interested in, and their website should have more specific instructions with the type of documentation, or more so the language that you need to bring to the doctor in order to obtain that disability certification and then subsequently enroll in the ABLE program.
Great, thanks, Chris. Another question that people have asked is a bit around how the ABLE accounts work. They want to know, does it work like a checking account, or how will you get the money to purchase things once you put your money into an ABLE account?
Right. Thank you, Elizabeth. That's a great question. And the disability community has advocated, and certainly here at NDI and through the ABLE National Resource Center, has worked very closely with the various federal agencies and departments that are kind of writing the rules and regs. And then we're working very closely with the program managers in each of the states that have launched programs to make sure that these ABLE accounts can be used as flexibly as possible, because we understand that the use for these funds is very broad depending on the person with a disability's particular needs. So when an individual contributes funds into an ABLE account, they're actually typically invested. You'll be offered a various different investment options when enrolling into a program. This goes all the way from basically what would look like a money market or checking account, all the way up to more high-risk stocks and bonds that you can invest in. If you're an individual, let's say that perhaps is an adult with a disability and has more frequent qualified disability-related expenses, so meaning you need to have better access to those funds, you might want to look into a program that offers a debit card that's associated with that ABLE program, of which many of the ABLE programs that are out there do have the option of a debit card. That way, again, you have more access to use those funds because, potentially you have a more frequent disability-related expenses. On the other side of it, perhaps you are a parent of a child with a disability and you're saving money for when they become age of majority or an adult. Therefore, you might not be as interested in the various ABLE programs that offer this very readily available access to those funds. Maybe you're more interested into the programs that have more in-depth investment options. So we really, it's good to go to the website. We have a tool on the website that helps you compare up to 3 ABLE programs at a time based off of about 12 different characteristics, of which include those features that I just discussed, the debit cards and the various investment options.
Great, thanks, Chris. We're going to switch over to a couple of hands-on banking questions, and then we'll come back to other ABLE questions. We'll do a little ping pong. So, Mia, we have a few questions for you. One question is, you mentioned that a coach prompts the individual when they're working through hands-on banking materials. Is this a virtual coach or a live person?
It is a virtual coach, and on the slides where you saw the flash version, there's a virtual coach that talks through the lesson the same way and using the same words that are in the instructor guide. So when saving and investing is introduced, it talks about what is saving, why is it important, again, using the same text that's in the instructor guide.
Great, thank you. Another question came in. The individual says, I have some individuals who seem ideal for an ABLE account, but they spend their paychecks as soon as they get them. Are there lessons or activities within hands-on banking that will help me move these individuals towards savings?
I think many of the saving and spending articles, and there are a few lessons that provide more tips on small ways to save or ways to think about purchases before you spend your money. For example, is this something that I really need? Is there a less expensive option? What comes to mind, although it's probably not as relevant today, is, do I need to go to the movies, or can I rent it, right? We don't have many options, except Netflix, I guess, is an option. Or if someone really likes to buy books, can I go to the library instead and borrow it? So there are some tips framed in that way. Hopefully that answers that question.
Yes, I think so. Thank you very much. And maybe I'll ask a similar question that came in to you folks, to Michael and Chris now, about ABLE. So one person wants to know, I've heard that you can put your entire paycheck into your ABLE account, but maybe not everybody can put their entire paycheck in, but certainly many of us practice the pay yourself first method of savings. Is there a way to put some of your paycheck into an ABLE account?
Right. So that's a good question. So as Michael said previously, anybody can contribute into a person's ABLE account. That includes friends, family, and employer, and certainly means the beneficiary themselves, or the person with a disability, as a result of, perhaps like you said, Elizabeth, in our example here, as a result of employment. Now, what people need to take note of, and what's very important, is ABLE helps individuals kind of get around asset limits that are associated with various means-tested benefits. However, it does not help individuals get around earned income being counted. So even if an individual puts a portion or even all of their earned income, the income they earn as a result of employment, even if they put it directly into the ABLE account, those funds are still counted with respect to substantial gainful activity when determining eligibility for their means-tested benefits, including SSI and Medicaid.
Thank you, Chris. So we have another question for you, Mia. The question is, we don't have a lot of individuals who are using mobile and online banking, and we're finding it challenging to teach them how to do so. Do you have hands-on banking lessons that can help with this?
We don't have any hands-on banking lessons today, but on our main page, there are several articles. So there are tools and resources that help individuals understand how online banking works. There are some prescriptive pieces there about how to deposit a check, how to navigate online bill pay. So there are resources and tools there, not necessarily a comprehensive lesson, but there is material there.
Great. Thank you so much. And Chris and Michael, we're going to ask you a similar question because it does relate to the questions folks have about how this whole banking process will work. So is it beneficial for individuals who are going to have an ABLE account to understand mobile banking? Are their accounts online or will they walk into a branch?
Right. So yeah, this is actually, I'm glad you brought up this question. It's a common misconception that we find out of a lot of individuals who are interested in opening up ABLE accounts. They think that in order to open up an ABLE account, you would walk into your community brick and mortar, Bank of America or what have you, wherever, and ask to open up an ABLE account, and that's actually not the case. In an effort to try and keep the costs of maintaining these accounts and of launching these accounts as minimal as possible, they're actually all done online. So again, the individual would, I would recommend starting out on our ABLE National Resource Center website, comparing and contrasting various programs based on what your individual needs are as an ABLE account owner and as an individual with a disability. And then you will be directed, you'll find the links to that program-specific web page. On that web page, you'll be given instructions about the specific details of that particular program, including, as Michael mentioned, the disclosure document, which we always recommend that folks read thoroughly because that really gets into the nitty-gritty of what their particular program is all about. And then that site will also, the particular ABLE program site, will give you instructions on how to enroll. So not only will you enroll all online, but you'll also maintain the account all online.
I think another thing to think about is that, again, family, friends, others can contribute to an ABLE account, and many of the states have created gift platforms, have created very simple opportunities where working with your own bank, Wells Fargo, other banks, it would make it very easy to, almost like automatic bill pay, that you could, on a regular basis, agree to how much money is going to go to a designated individual's ABLE account. So that is a way that people who are banked could be directly engaged with one of the ABLE programs and supporting an individual with an ABLE account. I did see another question about who decides what the money is spent on, and again, that's very much up to the designated account owner and beneficiary. There are a lot of choices here. No two people's needs are the same. And so it's a great opportunity, again, to think about looking at the resources on Handson Banking is about savings and budgeting and money management, but the choices are up to the individual. I think someone else asked the question is, are we responsible for tracking our expenses? And there is an IRS form on an annual basis where if you open an ABLE account, there is a form to be filled out, and there is an expectation that you are using distributions for qualified disability expenses. It probably is only that rare person who may face an audit, but if you do not spend the money on a qualified disability expense, there are tax penalties that you will incur.
Thank you so much, Michael. So we're just at the hour, so I just want to share one further thought with you. The reason why we put these materials together was so that you could do some of the connections that we're making today. So as people identify how much they're going to save towards their ABLE account, Hands-on Banking materials can help individuals think through their budgeting and identifying funds that they have to save in an ABLE account. We did get a question about other investment vehicles, and some of that information is available on Hands-on Banking, but you can also join the ABLE National Resource Center to better understand more things about ABLE accounts, and visit the webpage that we provided to further explore Hands-on Banking, the disability supplements, and the quick reference guide. I want to say thank you again to Mia for being with us from Wells Fargo Hands-on Banking. Thank you to Michael Morris and Chris Rodriguez. Thank you to Lori Schaller and to Katie Achenbach. For more information about the REI Network webinars, you can join our listserv via email in the coming weeks. You can check out future webinars and archived webinars such as today's recording by visiting www.realeconomicimpact.org. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you do have a question that didn't get answered, please reach out to us at ask@ndi-inc.org, and we'll be happy to connect with you to answer your question. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.